Upon request, today our show's topic is about unveiling the true history of the creation of the realms of heaven. Yes, the realms, plural, of heaven, including important reminders of what to focus on during this soon-to-be New Year of 2026. Our two super informed, honored guests, Prime Creator Dragon Dr. Amir Jahangiri and Dragon Fae Creator Apollymi, are returning to compare and add knowledge to this revealed history. And both of them will be adding what they know from their expertise. Dr. Jahangiri will be accessing the universal Akashic records and creator councils, and Dragon Fae creator Apollymi will be adding what she knows from the perspective of the starseed councils, of which she's a representative and member of, and that will be defined. So we are also weaving in the remainder of our subscribers' questions that they wish to be answered by both our guests. So welcome back, and thank you, both of you, so much for your generosity of time and wisdom.
Hello, everyone. We freaking love you. Hope you're doing well. Looking forward to a beneficial and entertaining and warm conversation. Purpose is benevolent. It's time to upgrade our beliefs. We are all that. We are the last version in this machine that is creating humanity. And so looking at things at a more compassionate and critical way and sharing what we know to be true. I hope you find it beneficial. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Amir. And Apollymi.
It's good to be back.
You're looking pretty gorgeous.
Thank you.
Folks, you notice we all spontaneously are wearing white for the heaven realms, so there you go. Okay, so as many of you know, we recently did a 4-part series on the history and realms of hell, including your afterlife options. It's not just about hell, it's about educating you about all the choices and the importance of asking when you cross over this life. So you won't have a fear of dying, which are most people's number one fear, and thus be better informed. Now, a regular subscriber with the moniker Arbot Moscow asked me, quote, would you consider making a show about heaven, the entities in heaven, their roles, religions associated with them, the location or realms, structures, etc.? And then I got more requests for this. So this is what today is about. And let's see, I want to tell you the plan for today's show. We are starting off with Apollymi because in an earlier show, in episode 33, she mentioned that Yahweh was decorporealized, and we're talking Yahweh's heaven, which is a realm. He disappeared in front of her at a private meeting, leaving nothing but a gold crown and gold dust. And 2 weeks after that, Yahweh's specific previous kingdom or realm of heaven was conveniently attacked in 2010 by a coordinated species group led by a powerful leader who had previous affiliations with that group. And so Yahweh, Apollymi says, still exists in Hanover. Now, a quick reminder, which we'll talk about. The first couple shows we did with Apollymi, she talked about what she says is the first full universe, law of one universe created by the source of all that is. So Yahweh still exists there. And some of us are also from there as well as here. So we'll get into that later. So Apollymi, let's start with you, and then Amir will add his brilliance about what he sees in the records. So, what details can you relay about the attack on Yahweh's realm of heaven? Because we did come back with a follow-up show and say it is being repaired, but we haven't followed up with that. And the Christian-oriented people who say, tell me, like, when I die, I want to go to heaven. And so I think that they maybe should know the details and the options for themselves, and they have more options too. So would you please share with us your knowledge about that?
So about a little after heaven got attacked, me and my archangel friend Arcturian, we were trying to like keep an eye on things. We had to go up in there and make sure a whole bunch of the vaults of like records, make sure that the soul well, make sure, things that were not supposed to be touched, were still there. And a lot of it still was there. But because Joshua was not registered as a C card creator, because they still have to go through their testing in order to take the golden oath of the karmatic debt creators. And these are the deities who have the right by source of all things that have taken that role to do the reincarnation, to do the soul census, to make sure that these souls are getting distributed properly, they are taken care of while they're in their care, all this other things. So Source had a few deities come in and take the soul well because no one could tend to it. This is Yahweh's heaven that resides a lot in some of the higher realms for the universes. This is not Hinova. Okay, this is not his kingdom in Hinova. This is like a sub-kingdom in the higher density realms that also tie into this universe for souls. So when someone usually dies here and they have done their oath to Christianity or adjacent religions, they would be going to this heaven. It is no longer available at this time. The kingdom is being repaired still and is actually doing pretty good. I did get an update on that. But it is livable only by the like higher dimensional beings. They're not taking souls at this time, obviously, because they do not have a caretaker who is authorized.
And all of that is going to be shocking to people. And so that's why we felt this was so important as an update. Even though there's no need for fear, you have lots of options. And Apollymi has explained multiple times what soul wells are, but would you mind, Apollymi, for those that are new today, to just give a brief definition of the importance of soul wells? So when she said a lot was destroyed of that realm, but the soul wells were safe. Can you explain to people what that
A,
means?
a soul well for a karmatic deity is basically a holding container, if you want to call it that. It is a place for souls to rest where they don't really want to be in their like astral body or soul body out experiencing things. Like they just want an isolated place within their own conscious being to rest. And the way that the soul well works is many souls could be in there, but you are given a reality that is specifically to you of the best version of the afterlife for you. It allows the soul to rest, to rejuvenate, to kind of go through emotions and trauma. Sometimes they can figure stuff out. It's not 100% guarantee though, because that depends on what the soul itself wants. But but when they're rested and they feel that they can tackle on existence again, they just they have the right to come out at any time that they want and then start existing again. This doesn't necessarily mean that they get reincarnated immediately. They could just be on the outside of a kingdom of the soul well. So say a person was in heaven, Yahweh's heaven, Yahshua's heaven, and they got from the soul well to the kingdom. That kingdom had so much going on, like there was a lot. But it was a kingdom in a huge realm of dimension and planes. So there was other kingdoms adjacent to that one that, you could possibly go and check out and, mingle with entities. And so, yeah,
Okay.
good
Okay.
basic
Oh,
definition.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was like, this is the basic definition.
No, that's a good one. And folks, heaven is somewhat of an umbrella term. I think you're getting that. We tend to go, oh, we're just going to go to heaven. And a lot of people think it's, this ideal place, but there's every possibility and that matches the frequency that you're able to go to. So, thank you so much for the clarification of that. And Amir, how many heaven realms are there? And are certain deities or prime creators in charge of each realm with their councils and religious or life beliefs that people down here pray to?
I love how you constructed the question. It does seem to depend on cultural beliefs, or let's say group creation. So similar to collective reality that we have down here, this seems to be also something that does exist in the non-physical realms. So there are many versions of this, let's say, positive afterlife. From my humble understanding, the entire thing of the afterlife could be seen as a service station. So let's go to the very fundamentals. The soul is eternal. We do pop in and out of many different bodies. And so one issue is the evolution of the body, the vessel. Many beings are involved in that. And then so what we are focusing on today is the evolution of the soul. So the physical reality seems to be the most optimal and effective way to learn and to evolve, because you're not at an unfair advantage or disadvantage due to soul history. The lessons are applied equally. You see equal opportunity. This is something that is important. You don't have access to your eons of soul memory and identity. The gifts are all kind of turned off unless you access them again through merit. And so this whole thing of heaven and hell is like a service station. If you really bang up the soul shard, you need to have your chassis straightened, and maybe you need extensive body work. And so that would be more dense realities of purging and healing and purification we discussed in great detail in the episodes related to the hell realms. Now, maybe you just have a few scratches and you don't need extensive body work and you don't have to pull the chassis. Then you get a fine polish. There seems to be initially, after shedding the physical vessel, certain stages of shedding heaviness or dense matter, physicality, and the properties of the lower astral realm. And so release and forgiveness are critical in the speed of this process. There are many, many hell realms. Not all of them are scary. There are many, many paradise realms, and not all of them are super fantastic. Some of them are pretty awfully boring. So we've got the Christianity version, paradise, coming from the Persian word paradis, the Persian garden. As a cultural exposure occurred, they looked at these structures saying, oh my God, this is looking like heaven. And so the word stuck. But then in Islam, they have something very similar, Jannah, with many levels or tiers. This is also described as a beautiful garden. Now, you see, this is important. All of our wonderful ancestors, no matter where on earth they existed, they looked at pristine, perfect nature as the embodiment of happiness and fulfillment. This is a deep-rooted desire in our soul. So that which is natural and is beautiful gives us happiness. The Buddhists, they've got the nirvana. The Hindus have Svargaloka. Hindus and Buddhists seem to be very closely aligned. The purpose of these whole sequences of incarnation is to exit the process of reincarnation. That occurs when you achieve your objective, your goal. And so we've got the Judaism version, which is the Garden of Eden. Egyptians have the Field of Reeds. The Viking, the Norse, they have Valhalla. We have Elysium by the Greeks, and Tlalocan by the Aztec. Ancient Chinese, they have Tian. So all these versions of paradise are available to every single one of us, and much more. Meaning that there may be a soul that says, okay, I've done all of these. I've played the game of, let's say, a car wash and a patch-up job and a soul review or a life review. I want something new. And so you can create something yourself or with a small group. Imagine people living in separation from mainstream society in the Amazon. They've got their own deities and their own belief system, and so they would have their own, let's say, forest paradise. And these do all exist. Now, the whole party is to facilitate soul evolution. So there are souls that are born on Earth. They have the objective of breaking out of this cycle of birth and death and rebirth, evolving to become multi-universal. So they master all the lessons in this universe and gain access to many other universes. And then we've got souls that are visitors. They're already multi-universal. They look at Earth and they say, oh my God, look at all this delicious madness. I want to have a try. And so they have specific objectives. Regardless, between incarnations, we have these cycles of life review, healing, and preparation for the next incarnation. Certain things don't get healed. You can't resolve karma out of body. You got to come back and do it the right way. Certain soul injuries, like weapons inscribed with magic. You won't believe how many clients I have. Axe wounds, sword wounds, arrows going through their head, things inscribed with magic. These also need to be resolved down here. So it's basically rest and recuperation, R&R, between incarnations, before you head back into the casino and try your luck.
Great way of explaining it. And one of the most important was the statement for me was the statement you said, because this is about, folks, what we really need to focus on now, okay, while we're in body, is that you can't clear up your karma from the other side. Now, my sense is that is mostly true. I would say, I'd imagine, though, that you get much support and there's healing centers over there and there's places you go to be helped. Is that true, Amir?
I'll let Apollymi go because I think she has something important to say.
Apollymi.
Well, okay, so for the healing centers, as we had discussed in the episode with hell and redemption and reformation, some of the healing centers, like the one in hell and some of them in heaven, they're very minute. Again, we do the aha moment where you kind of go through a simulation almost, and you get replayed the same instance over and over again until you just kind of get it. I know that this doesn't really, it works, but it's not very good. As we know, which is why we were trying to revamp things. So in heaven realms, in a few of the heaven realms, I haven't really traveled to many except for Yahshua's and Yahweh's and like a just tiny few other kingdoms. The only like therapy or like reformation stuff that they give you is basically kind of like a pat on the back, being like, good job, you did it, you know. And then if you're in the soul well, like you can replay stuff, it's over and over again, but you have to take responsibility for that. It's not forced upon you. As for other heaven realms and the way their deities do it, I don't really know because I haven't really traveled a whole lot to some of the other heaven realms, as we've discussed before in previous
They're
episodes.
very, very similar. I agree with this. You don't get completely washed and cleaned. So it's an accumulation of experience. And so if you do something really, really awful to one or many, this burden and imbalance remains. There's no eternal joy or eternal suffering. It's just to give you some insights. Maybe you plan future incarnations in a certain way so you come across these beings and have the opportunity to learn the lesson and to undo the imbalance. And sometimes this is difficult. We're entangled with certain souls for many, many lifetimes. The pattern changes, mother and daughter, father and son, brother and sister, but those ancient, let's say, energetic memories or soul memories are very powerful and active. And so you may meet a person for the very first time and you love them, or you actually get aggravated. These are old patterns. And so you've come across these individuals for a fresh opportunity to do right by each other and learn the lesson that you're teaching each other. This never goes away. So really, where all the magic happens is down here on Earth. Whether it's the evolution of the body and this physical form, which is happening beautifully, or whether it is the evolution of the souls that are coming in each time with no memory at a fair chance, equal opportunity to actually acquire the wisdom. And so here is where we heal. Here is where we evolve. Here is where we ascend and strengthen our connection to the beloved source of all things. All the rest is it's just a repair shop, or let's call it a mall, where you get down to sit and have a beer and chat with another few people between incarnations, whatever floats your boat. So many cultures focus really heavily on, let's say, reproductive activities. There are plenty of volunteers. You can mingle as long as you want. It's between incarnations after all. But does it really count for much? No, not really. It's down here that the major growth and the major progress occurs.
Now, when you say down here, would that also apply to a fourth density world? What is it really like? Is it because up there it doesn't really count because you're not getting your metal's not getting tested under fire?
Good, I believe
like
so.
It is here.
I believe so. It's all with knowledge. It is voluntary, and we agree to the conditions. That what really counts is where you are under pressure, where you don't remember, where it's really fair. Otherwise, many of us are already very, very evolved souls. We want this opportunity to come in, not know who we are and what we are, and get bombarded with trauma just to see if we have the ability to forgive and heal. Now, that is a big badge of honor for the soul. So it has to be fair. This is what we desire. Otherwise, what would be the point of the whole thing?
Why do you call that fair?
Because it is equal opportunity. You are not at an unfair disadvantage or an unfair advantage, point of advantage towards another soul just because you have lived many more eons and acquired certain siddhis or abilities. You're both human. And so you're exposed to the whole range of volatile emotion that humanity is exposed to. The pain is so deep and so real. The pleasure and bliss is so elating and so enjoyable. So this is really where you can test yourself as a soul, as a consciousness. So all the rest, these realms of between incarnations, the beings governing it, those holding space, maintaining, let's say, the repair shop or the mall, they're all performing acts of service. From, let's say, the entities of negative dimensions, sometimes called devils or demons, or going up to positive dimensions, the seraphim. Essentially, they are elemental. Seraphim and genie are essentially fire beings, both of the same archetypical form of life. So one is placed here, one is working in the penthouse, one is working in the 13th floor, the 20th floor. They're all serving the evolution of souls. And so they are all beings of the divine, and they're all, they're performing a valuable service and utility for us.
Hmm. Okay, Apollymi, I know you have things to add to that. Compare or contrast. Thank you, Amir. Go ahead, Apollymi.
Well, I may not like it because some of us, didn't exactly sign contracts to get down here fully, but the principle of, say you have two souls that have karmatic debt against each other. They did both each other wrong, they ended up killing each other, something along those lines. If the memories are erased or suppressed, as many people on this planet have found out, they could still end up being friends and figuring out their differences while they start awakening their memories of each other along the way. It's kind of a neutral ground. I don't like it on many aspects, but it does serve its purpose for quite a few things. Some of us still have our memories, of course, when we get put down here, but not all of them. We don't have access to everything that kind of comes along with our soul evolution, our growing, and getting permissions back, basically.
Okay, this is so important to get clear.
Neutral ground. So it's equal opportunity. Every fresh incarnation, you have equal chance to ascend. And the surprising, beautiful thing is, even one lifetime is enough to break out of the whole thing. And so if you're doing really good in one lifetime, you clear all the karma, you understand who you are and what you are. Now, for our esteemed audience, wonderful ladies and gentlemen, all this awakening stuff that you hear can happen with 3 months of dedicated meditation. It's accessible to us. It's not some unknown woo-woo. There's technology available, spiritual technology that helps you achieve this. And so I agree with what Apollymi said. You don't remember and you have a chance to make friends. On the flip side, somebody who's done really badly in one lifetime, they don't come in with the burden of the terrible memories. They get a fresh opportunity to undo. Maybe it will take them 100 lifetimes to undo the imbalance coming across the people they have harmed one by one by one by one, but they get it right eventually. So nothing is permanent. And then through those, let's say, dark or evil lifetimes, you achieve balance maybe in an even greater scale, where some souls come in just to experience this aggression, this madness that doesn't exist many other places. So it's all kind of well thought out. It is not perfect. Nothing is. The only thing that is perfect is source. And so the rest is just expression and implementation, a best effort really. And sometimes even high beings get it wrong.
Always kind of like the tree of life, devolving, evolving, circulating around, because we're eternal and infinite, correct? In terms of the souls. I always like to remind people of that.
The soul is infinite to an extent. And I know this is going to come up. They're like, well, what about the soul deletion? The soul deletion is basically taking your identity of your consciousness away and you return to source, sort of. So
that's the soul auditing that's going on now that we talked about in previous shows.
Correct.
Which is also very important as
it's like how a soul can take information and decide just not to utilize it and throw it in the wastebasket. Your energy as a soul is infinite. Your consciousness is kind of something in between. So if you want to actually keep your full identity as a consciousness and continue to grow and continue to learn, make sure you pass your soul audit.
No, that's greater clarity on what makes you pass your soul audits. Okay. Amir, anything
Uh,
to add to that?
I really love the soul audit. I apply it to myself 3 times a day, right? And so um, if you are a willing and eager student of the cosmos, things always go so much smoother. While to the contrast, if you're kicking and screaming and there are fingernail marks on the floor as they're pulling you through lessons, it's going to go slower. Um, it's all about a certain understanding that becomes integrated. And so, in order for this to happen, for something like a soul that is a combination of much experience, much identity, certain things stand in the way. So, you want to be that 5, 6 year old who's learning the alphabet for the first time without any memories of older teachers beating you or older teachers giving you lots of candy. Both are going to be a diversion. So, a fresh perspective, that's the utility of the matrix. And by the way, the matrix does not stop at physicality. It is a multi-timeline, multi-dimensional thing. And so most certainly, if your belief systems are incorrect, the same way you manifest wonky in physicality, you manifest wonky in other dimensions. And so this has been a cause of major, major abuse. With soul traps and fictitious reincarnation cycles, belief systems that become parasitic, meaning that, like water through the wheel, you're fueling a whole parasitic entity that's getting fat and chubby and wealthy off the reincarnation of souls on Earth. So some of these attacks, wink wink, are auditors coming in, looking and say, hey, what the actual hell are you doing here in heaven? And they set things in order, meaning that you shall not feed yourself off the divine spark of sentient beings. That is a big no-no. Things are meant to be in equal exchange. I do this for you, you do this for me. We both benefit. It is harmonious, it is symbiotic. But if, I'll use myself as an example, if I get wealthy and powerful at the cost of others suffering, and wasting their time, wasting their energy, and misguiding them, then there is imbalance that I have caused. So there are levels of auditing going on, not just with relation to the souls that are going in this mechanism, but those who are responsible, that are in a position of care. So if something in hell misbehaves, they get audited. If something in quote unquote heaven misbehaves, they also get audited. The whole thing is about running a clean operation. And the same way, let me just put it like this: wherever free will exists, there's always the possibility of choosing wrong. And so again, those performing these acts of service, making this whole thing possible, facilitating this incredible machine we have in this universe for the evolution of consciousness, we're all responsible and we all also get something out of it.
Beautiful. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit because I'm feeling people would like an example of this. And Apollymi, you said that you are familiar with some of Yahweh because he was almost like a father to you in many ways growing up, you had mentioned. And he's a second tier creator in Hanova, right? Yeah, so he's pretty capable of a lot of things. So before we get into the Hanova, I think people would really enjoy examples of heaven realms. And so maybe that would be better done by Amir. And I know Amir, as an aspect of Odin, he's got Asgard. So how about just for fun and enlightenment, give people one or two examples of what realms like that appear like are like, what they involve.
Okay, if I may go, of course, there's the experience of Valhalla. There are certain souls that thrive in the role of protector or instrument of balance. And so being valiant and being righteous is the peak of achievement. And so during these Valhalla realms, they don't just get to feast and drink, they train. And certain levels of, let's say, martial arts or combat conditioning remains with the soul. Although you don't remember, it becomes like a reflex. So many of us come in with past life, let's say, combat conditioning. You've never gone to a dojo or never trained, but if you get into a skirmish, suddenly the body does its thing. And so these beings, not just on a physical level, on an energetic level, they have their specialities. Some are especially angelic souls. They are masters at non-aggressive resistance. They go through very, very difficult incarnations and they take it like a boss and they just get stronger. They transmute the poison. So one example would be that. I worked with an esteemed client. The lady was asking about her grandparents. The first thing I saw was both of them dancing. I think it was the foxtrot, and they were going at it like pretty aggressively. Chandeliers floating in a whole ballroom, and these guys were dancing. I said to the lady, I don't know what this is about, but they seem to be having fun. And they were good parents, they were good people. And so she said, oh my God, they had this dance studio all their life, and it seems after passing, that was what they wanted to continue doing. Beautiful. For me, I'm going to be laying in the shade, maybe inside a cave, eating cheesecake all day, every day, like there's no tomorrow. And then when I can't eat more cheesecake, I'm dipping back in. There's examples of people who have done really, really, really wrong. Not too long ago, I had another esteemed client talking about their spouse. And the spouse had been a Nazi officer during World War II, causing some of the atrocities with the camps, with the Holocaust. And so this soul was reincarnated almost immediately, saying, I want to fix this. And so the gentleman was born into a survivor family, experiencing exactly the aftermath of the evil that he had a part in doing. Although a young boy, he was indoctrinated, but he took responsibility for it, you see. He never found out. The lady was a mystic, so she knew. And so this also happens. We undo imbalances. It could be beautiful. Next time between incarnations, probably I get no cheesecake because I've had enough for a while. So it's our creation. We're not forced into it. We're not cattle to be forced through a path and go into this den or this den. If we wish to create our own paradise realm and speak with certain chosen elevated masters and learn from them, that is also available to us. And so this is why with great joy and elation I say this version of humanity, doesn't matter how old you are, if you're 5 or if you're 95, you have the wisdom now of maturity, of eons. So these old stories that served our ancestors really, really well in the past, and most of them prescribed to it. So the paradise or the Jannah, where billions of people still fall into that category, you are not limited by these. So you can create your own paradise with greater wisdom. Do you really need to get cheesecake to be a good, decent human being? No. Do you need to be beaten not to be an asshole? Sorry for my language. No, it's just coming naturally, quite naturally out of your wisdom and maturity.
That's one of the key reasons for the show on my part, was to let people know that it's not just heaven or hell options or this or that, because a lot of people keep themselves alive when it's time for them to go because they're so scared about where they're going to go if they're not perfect, or all these things, right, that religion has perpetuated, unfortunately, on somewhat of the negative side. So thank you for sharing that. So obviously Valhalla would attract a lot of warriors. Okay. And then any other realms that either one of you are familiar with or have visited that you feel?
The most famous ones are mainstream religions now. They have the most, let's say, like Netflix or Amazon. They have the most subscribers. Every now and again, you find this awesome little channel. I'm not pointing at anybody in particular, where you get the cleanest freshest information, this is available to us. Nobody forces you. No one's chasing you with a cattle prod. Hey, go through this tunnel or this tunnel. No, 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 no. We have grown above that and beyond that.
Thank you, because there's just so much limited programming. Now, for those, I only read the Bible once. I don't follow any religion. I respect all, but um, I would like clarity because some people had a question. Is Yahweh quite, the heaven thing, and Yahweh, is it the same being as Jehovah? And there was confusion about that. And Apollymi, I remember in one of our very first shows about the Yahweh, you said the Yahweh and Jehovah's Isle of Paradise. And that is over in Hanover, which will be the next subject. But Amir or whoever, is Yahweh the same being as Jehovah? Because I'm not resonating that it is, but it may be. This is just for clarity from the Akashic records for people to get clear on, because one of the things that I may be off about, but I'm concerned, is people down here say I don't have enough energy, but their belief is a powerful thing. But if they're praying to entities or praying to certain beings, that also, I would imagine, feeds them and continues their continuation of whatever trip they're on. So who wants to talk about that? Clarity. How about Amir? Let's start with you on that one.
Okay, so Yahweh and Jehovah, they're the same word. One is Latinized from the Hebrew. The words are the same, and there are many, many, let's say, souls that have put on the mask, calling themselves Yahweh or calling themselves. This is kind of controversial. I must watch what I say for fear of untimely death. But many beings, namely the Anunnaki, as they interacted with humanity, found these healthy divine mechanisms of, let's say, life reviews, of healthy reincarnation, and fast track to ascension and graduation. Well, they impeded our path a little bit. That is okay. We benefited greatly from their presence. In their ignorance, they actually served us, both in terms of our physical bodies, but also in terms of the wisdom of the soul. And so, which one are you referring to? Is there an original one, a divine being serving beautifully, doing their job right? Or are you talking about, let's say, a whole, 100,000 year line of Anunnaki, all blood relatives to each other, all feeding upon humanity? Because this is also a thing. Now, without going more into detail, again, for the very, very real fear of safety, I just would like to refer people to the works of Gerald Clark. He spent lots of time finding out the family tree of the Anunnaki. These are beings that, again, looking at the modern religions, it seems depending on which book you're reading, the same entity behaves very, very differently. One is nuts. One is more benevolent, right? One likes eating babies and killing and wiping out not just people, but their cats and dogs and their crops too. So you see, there's kind of a glitch here. So many versions exist. The burden of discernment is upon us. If we act like idiots, we shall be treated like idiots. And goodness knows everything we need is at our fingertips to discern correctly. And I say all what I have said with great respect to everyone and every person's belief.
Yes, because again, when I did the brief reading, I thought, oh my God, how can anyone worship someone who's like a bipolar God in terms of,
Well,
but
Anunnaki.
here's a tricky question around that though. You in our show with Thoth and the Mantids, you made very clear that Thoth was in charge of making sure that each agenda of the many resets they did in this experiment, which would alternate from genocidal destruction, take in the codes that were needed, and then the next one would be Renaissance, happy. So is that partially a reflection? Like, were these beings that are creator beings, and that makes sense that Yahweh and Jehovah is the same kind of name. So speaking of Yahweh, and was he doing the work at this dimension, right, for Earth, because they're two different things, Hanova and this dimension? Was he, yeah, that Jehovah Yahweh thing, was he responding to the reset thing that create the different resets? Like, okay, now we're going to be nice to the people. Now we're going to challenge the people. Now we're going to, like, or was it not so much that?
Most of these variations in one persona seem to be happening very, very fast, as if there is a palace coup. And so the Anunnaki are fifth dimensional. They're not limited to physicality, although they do come in physical bodies for the purpose of undoing damage that they have caused. The fastest level of learning for them would also happen inside a human body. This is also true for the Draco-reptilians. This is also true for mantids who have been naughty. Yes, they do come down in physicality, because the machine that works for all other types of soul works for them too. Now, out of physicality, especially if you are in a position of trust and in a position of sacred care, and you mess up, there are repercussions for this. Including a comprehensive audit where you go into the divine fire and imbalances are burned away all the way until something balanced is left behind. So if certain beings would pretend to be the prime creator and cause enormous harm, in the process they have become psychotic and quite narcissistic, and there is nothing left to heal. That is a complete burn. It's all disintegrated, and then what remains is recycled. Nothing is wasted. These do exist. And so we just look at these beings. See, it doesn't matter. Please go ahead.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt too much. I just want the audience to know that what Amir is explaining when he's talking about the ego burn of them cleaning their karmatic debt is basically the same as the soul audit, except for a little bit more extreme.
Correct. And so this is another brilliant thing. Down here, as humans, we don't have the full picture, and so the audit is so much more gentle. Now, if you have your entire memory as an infinite soul through many universes and you still mess up and do a boo-boo, then the repercussions are equally severe. So really, it's kind of like, playing a computer game. You die 1,000 times and finally you kill the boss and you graduate.
Okay, just for a little clarity on my part. So Yahweh is a true, powerful creator being, still exists in Hanova, no longer here. His area in heaven was the one attacked. It's getting redone. There's no replacement for him yet, is one question. Or is this all part of Reformation and how we're rearranging the whole new thing? But as usual, the pirates came in, infiltrated, and then took the names of certain powerful creators and contaminated them for public dissemination.
Many, many examples of this exist.
Okay.
And again, I would like to reference a very learned yogi, Master Sadhguru, when he's talking about Shiva. Shiva is the energy of the Akash, or energy of creation, of source. Then an alien comes and visits Earth 25,000 years ago, right after the fall of Atlantis, and looks at these brilliant, beautiful Hindu, these wonderful people who understand the energy of source, and then he runs a few parlor tricks and says, I am Shiva. That is something that brings about great karma. And so that being is now probably not even existent. but the energy, the description of source energy is eternal, independent of this universe existing or not existing, or between paths of birth and death and rebirth. Uh, Many of these are older energies. Another example would be the energy of Kali. Kali is the divine mother aspect of divine feminine that comes into sacred rage, saying that you shall not mess with my children. And then for a certain period in history, there were a group of bandits called the Thuggi in India, claiming to be followers of Kali, and they would suffocate people, they would rob, and that was their thing. And so that doesn't reflect on the truth of the energy of the divine feminine. Many of these occurred during history, and so if the paradise realm of the genuine, let's say, energy of divine, known by a certain name, Yahweh, got polluted by humans, human priests, oh yes, they have payback, they have things to pay back in every religion, because when it becomes organized and centralized, it becomes a mechanism for power, for land, for money. That's not what spirituality is about. And so the perversion may become then multidimensional. So the Anunnaki and the priesthood, or the reptilians and the priesthood, or certain, let's say, elements from Orion who caused these incredibly bitter wars coming into very beautiful cultures and polluting it, they're all going into the bubble, and they're all going through the divine fire or the soul audit. So really, this is upon us.
Mm-hmm.
There is, if you are listening to this show, my wonderful soul friend, my soul kin, there is no reason to fear. You are aware enough to be looking for this information, seeking truth. Listen, if you are asking, am I worthy? Have I done good enough? Yes, you have. The problem are those who think they can do no wrong. You are not one of those. So you're going to be treated with divine compassion. What awaits you is beautiful, because you are beautiful. Look at how you have treated people around you, and don't be too worried about little mistakes. We're in a difficult environment. There's only love, there's only forgiveness.
So beautiful and so important, and so healing for people to hear this. Apollymi, anything you'd like to add to that?
I just want to say that with a lot of entities taking the name of actual karmatic deities and implementing their own agendas into it, again, we have already seen quite a bit of recoil from the perpetrators basically being soul audited. There's been a lot of cleanup that's been going on, especially in the lower realms as well. And Yahweh was never happy with how people took his name and just ran off with it and did the whole agenda thing. Now, a lot of people are probably asking, why didn't those people just get smited, like right then and there? Why didn't he just stop them? And again, when you're on experimental planets like this, it's called free will. They have the free will to do bad karmatic things and to see where it goes off with it. But in Yahweh and a lot of other deities' eyes, it's about discernment. Does the soul that is interacting with all of this chaos have the discernment, have the soul maturity, the evolution maturity to know and call BS and not fall into the ranks and continue on without, even if you're sucked into the chaos, it's about maintaining your balance versus what you have to do, to maintain environmental balance versus soul imbalance. A lot of super soldiers, which I'm not going to get into, should be psychopathic maniacs while still being here on Earth, living daily lives. And a lot of us aren't. We're just normal people, So we have the ability to do a lot of things and we don't, and that's discernment.
Very, very important. One other clarity I can feel people would be really interested in, and we did mention, but we didn't mention specifics. So we know from thousands of cases of near-death experiences, and we're looking, folks. Excuse me for using Yeshua or Jesus as an example. It's just in America where I live, and I work with a lot of warriors who have dealt with all kinds of things. They just feel that they tend to feel like Jesus is their savior, so to speak, right? And so I want to be clear about Yeshua. As we said in the last show, that in the hell realms, that it's important to differentiate, because Yeshua or a Yeshua aspect or a Yeshua hologram or a Yeshua masquerader, which we just clarified on how often masquerades, shows up when you ask for Jesus. So now you just said Yeshua or Jesus is not yet C status. We explained that in the last show. It has not had its creator, his creator card yet. And so is there any clarification you can give on that? Because Yeshua is still a protector and does show up. Go ahead, Amir.
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely yes. Now, is it possible that we may be deceived? Sure, this happens all the time, but how else will you learn? This is not our first rodeo in bodies as souls going through this pattern of learning and reincarnation. You get street smart. You'll know immediately. It is built into you. How will you know that beautiful consciousness that is Yahshua? You feel washed, you feel elated, tears come to your eyes. It is so beautiful, you cannot describe it in words. Some being that is trying to masquerade that will not be able to hold up the mask forever. You'll know. And so that's the other thing. Often these organized belief systems and movements, they treat people like idiots, like sheep that need to be herded and guided, and that is far from the truth. We are intelligent, we are aspects of the beloved source, and so that discernment is built into us. If you choose to evaluate, you shall see truthfully. And if you choose to intentionally blind yourself and deafen yourself, there is no rescue for you. So seeking the truth will result in you finding the truth. And so if you wish to commune with that beautiful consciousness, that soul, that being that is Yahshua, it's available to you. I love that being beyond anything. I've received major healing, life-changing healing. Through the entire thing, almost going on 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I just cried like a baby. As this wonderful master washed my heart clean from so much trauma and hardship. How do I know? Well, it's kind of obvious. Now, our wonderful audience, please do not fear. Trust in your own brilliance. Trust in your own discernment. These deceptions are kind of shallow. There's not much to them. If you are not willingly ignorant, there is no pulling the wool over your eyes. You'll know immediately. This is built into you. Be certain in your own ability.
Well, thank you so much. That's a very important reminder. And Apollymi, I know both Amir and you, and I have personally met JC for short. And is there anything you'd like to share just about that being? And
So, discernment can be very difficult for a person who is so in their earthly body and has not been able to connect to their astral or soul yet. Your astral and soul consciousness and body allows you to help discern off-worldly things, energy signatures, life forces, truth. And this is why conscious evolution is so important, because it allows you to start connecting your earthly body and consciousness, because it does have its own consciousness, and starts connecting with your soul, so that bridge can start to be built, so you can have the knowledge. And knowledge is a huge broad term. I know we use this a lot, but let me identify it more. You will start to be able to feel the lies. You'll start to be able to discern a false energy signature from someone who is true that you're talking to. We talked about how people are disguising themselves as these beings. And the best way that you can literally get in touch with Yahshua or Yahweh, or is to literally ask a specific audience with them. So for those who actually want to start to get to know Jesus or Yahshua, literally be like, I am asking for an audience with Yahshua, the consciousness of Yahshua, because he's spread throughout quite a bit, from Yahweh, who is from Hinova, or is the son of Yahweh from Hinova. There is very few kids that he's actually had, to my knowledge. So asking specifics for specific consciousness will help eliminate the ability to have a fake person, because when you start getting to that point, you are asking a specific person. Do you know how many people call their kids, Jesus or Yahshua, like all over the oververse? A name literally has so many conscious tethers to it. You need to start identifying which one that you want to interact with. And if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel that you quite got the right person, ask Source. Ask Source of Hinova to help guide you to the consciousness you want. It's like a phone call index, okay? It'll get you to the right person.
That's so perfect. And that brings us right into a subscriber's question. And the subscriber, the moniker is just at 5490. And he wanted to ask Amir if he knew also, which Apollymi described. Remember, in our early shows, she described that the closest pronunciation of this source's first original universe, it's not the name, it is referred to as Hinova because it's a name that sounds like music and bird songs together. Okay, and that it's highly protected with multiple species, living in with no disease, no aging, no killing except for in an arena under certain circumstances. So he was going, why don't you ask Amir if he knows anything about Hinova or has been there just to compare and contrast, which is a fair question.
The purest form of divine creation is this Hinova, where there's no illusion of separation. So where there is a complete lack of ego and identity, divine creation is this paradise. And so it is not possible to describe such things in terms of location, time, volume, space, distance. It is the pure form of divinity, or let's say prototypes of what can be used to grow the fractal of existence. And so then when we gain ego, when we gain identity, and we go through the illusion of separation, the expressions of this pure divine beauty and perfection become less beautiful, less perfect, like the world, the universe we are in now. So let's call that the seed of creation, or the seed of this ever-growing, ever-expanding fractal. Is it available to us all? Yes. I would like to refer to the wisdom of the Sufi, a past life of myself 1,100 years ago, where I uttered the words that I am the divine. and they burned me at the stake, one of the first of such occurrences. And yet I say this lifetime too, that which stands in your way to union with Source is you. So purge that ego and identity, and you are in Hanover. You are in that pure, primal form of divine perfection. So it is the prototype of existence.
And then, of course, all the source of all that is allows its, so to speak, children, if you want to use that human term, to go out and have these experimental
Little prime
worlds.
creators here and there, some just at their first go, creating a
Right.
little googy goo universe, and of course they get it wrong. It's okay. Still, it's a reflection of that ineffable beauty that is the prototype of existence by Source. And yet it is not Source. Source would include the imperfections also. So this crazy, crazy universe and this dumpster fire that is Earth is also part of all there is that is Source. But the most sublime, refined expression, I would like to use the description Hanover for it. So that's my understanding.
And then, of course, it is a wise decision to have protection around the original pure area, frequency wise and vibrationally, until you don't automatically allow all experiments in.
Think of a rose bush, and sometimes the branches they grow kind of a way that they shouldn't grow, and so they may run into each other. So there are infractions between domains, beings trying to artificially evolve beyond their natural and righteous station, and maybe attempts at intrusion, warfare, all this kind of thing, all this kind of stuff. It's constant, it always happens. So protecting that domain of purity for the sake of all that exists is paramount. You have to do it. I've come across one or two beings, and they are the bodyguards of this domain, or the bouncers, or the gatekeepers. They keep stuff in order. That's that pure realm of divinity and perfection, that sublime pure essence, which is the, let's say, the master copy from which other prototypes can be created, with then different variations that has to be kept clean and protected. It's like that thing you use to print the dollar bill. What's it called? I don't remember the words. You got to
Yep.
keep that thing clean, and no dust needs to settle on it, because otherwise a whole batch of dollar bills, you got to burn them. So that's the way I would like to probably describe what that
Okay.
Hanover, that original master design is.
Okay. Wonderful clarity on that. And do these beings that you've come across that are protecting Hanova, do they have a name like immortals or seraphim or
No, no,
harukas?
no, no, no. Seraphim are elementals from the domain of vibration, dimension positive 13. No better or worse than, let's say, a very evolved and refined fire elemental from the dimension minus 13. It's all the same. These beings are specialists, the bodyguards of source domain of Hanova. These are badass. You wouldn't want to you wouldn't want to mess with them.
Yes, go ahead, Apollymi. You have something to add, I'm sure.
Yep, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. All right. So that gives some interesting validation for that question. And is there anything else that either one of you would like to share specifically about knowledge around the heavenly realms that you haven't before we go into the next things on new protocols and a few other things?
If
If
I go ahead, go
if
ahead,
you really
please.
don't have a knowledge of where you want to go, or you just kind of want to bum around the heaven realms until you find a place that seems good for you, uh, when you die, you can always call a reaper to have you just be like, I want to go to heaven realms, give a general description, you know, and then they can take you to one of them. Again, if you get turned away at the door because either you don't meet their standards, because certain heaven realms have protocols of standards that they only will let certain beings in. So, but you can also kind of go around the heaven realms and just kind of see which one works out for you at the door. Some of them have tour guides. So,
Correct. And also keep in mind, you don't have to waste loads of time. Please believe me, it gets boring real fast. I mean, lying in the sun drinking mojitos all day may sound really good for the first 6 months, and then you become suicidal. Oh, please put me back down in earth. I can't take this anymore. I want some excitement. I want some challenge. And also, what we are presenting is, of course, is coming through the filter of the human vessel. And so, usually reading the Akashic records is affected by the purity of the vessel. And so here on my own behalf, I would like to admit that I am anything but perfect. And so I do have my own traumas, my own limitations. And so this does affect the way that I translate this stream of information coming in. It is a best effort. It is a personal understanding of this stream of knowledge. And so do take it with compassion, and please do forgive me for my shortcomings, and take it with a grain of salt. I just try to remain elated, have a sense of humor, and very strongly push this message of hope and evolution and the beauty of the whole thing. And so I just wanted to add that caveat to the whole thing.
Thank you, Amir. And that reminded me of a very important thing I wanted to bring up that you had mentioned, and we could use a little updated clarity on that, is Amir is capable of channeling universal Akashic records. And the reason why I deem that is important is Amir and I believe Apollymi have all noticed that there's Akashic records for different planets, planes, and it goes up, 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 up. But we all noticed that Earth's Akashic records had been a mess. But we never talked about it, or why, or what created it, or who's helping with that. So can we do a little important side story about that, Amir?
Yes, so with if it's okay, Apollymi, I'll go first, and then you just please complete. So the Akashic records, the Akash is also known as ether, also known as yin, the source energy, or let's say the non-physical energy. It is the echo of all existence. And so, although the amplitude may be dampened over time, but anything that ever existed does not go out of existence, and so you can pull the information. Now we've got the Earth Akashic records, that of the solar system, that of our galaxy, then the cluster of galaxies, then their universal Akashic records, and then there are cosmic Akashic records. Now, coming down into Earth, of course, Earth is a mishmash of very different types of souls. Some of them are really masterful, and not all of them behave very, very well. And so going into the Akashic records and doing a perjury, changing someone's records, or stealing information, this happens more than I would like to admit. So the Earth Akashic records would be like a public library in a really rough ghetto. There's graffiti on the wall, people have lit fires, there's rubbish everywhere. It's a freaking mess. And so therefore, books that you open up, they've got gum, pages are sticky, right? It's just notoriously unreliable.
Oh my God.
And so there are very, very beautiful specialists that are now in human bodies, and they are working on restoring the earth level Akashic records. The approach is like imagine a very bumpy road with lots of potholes, and you can't go through every line of code and trying to discern the missing part. It is built into the system. And so you have this fine grained sand and you fill all the holes. Each grain of sand is imbued with source energy. And so it does a recording of the code, correction and cleaning and restoration. Then there is more a, let's say, systemic approach, where the Akashic records can be seen as a grid of crystals and light. And some parts of this grid have been eroded. So there are system level architects restoring this. And of course, learning from the experience of what happened, thank you, pirates, to the Akashic records now built into the architecture of the system. We've got mechanisms of protection and restoration that didn't exist. So they're not just repairing it the way it was. That is foolish. They're taking on board the damage that was created to this mechanism of information storage and information retrieval, and that's been upgraded. But no worry, because the Akashic records are not the only game in town. There are many other species that have their own mechanisms of storing information to a very, very sophisticated level. So the peak of Atlantis, the peak of Lemuria, the height of Egypt, height of Persia, these are all stored in little pocket dimensions. Not going more into this. If you have membership of these energetic libraries, you can go back and see the version of truth where these beings, at least according to these beings. And so the natural Akashic records are being restored. And yes, a lot of
and guarded
and guarded
appropriately.
and built into the new upgraded system defense mechanisms. Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling, I may be wrong, that you are essential to having that being done, and I wanted to personally thank you for that.
I just push the button that goes boom. That's what, yeah, that's what I do. So,
Very
well, yes, initially some cleansing was required, coming in with, these World War II fire guns, blow torches, burning out all the old, so these guys can come and start building on a clean foundation. It's like that was needed.
There was something you said, Apollymi, before, which, as we know, you are a member of several councils, and you said that the karmatic evaluation and protection is within the specific laws that have been delineated out for each specific planet or universe. So can you elaborate more on that?
So the faction that I work for is from Source to Nova, and they lay down the laws and rules of what a successful civilization, evolution of consciousness, passable requirements are. That also includes the planet's consciousness as well, because they're done on two different things. And then we have for society, we have individual conscious evolution, and then we have civilization as a whole conscious evolution. And there's specific evolutionary steps that has to happen, and this is what we call evolution maturity. This is where everyone starts to awaken, starts to take their earthly bodies in any dimension or plane, okay? The physics still apply, and start merging their soul so that that bridge starts to be formed. They get more information, and this also goes for collective conscious information as well. It allows them to go from a primitive state of conscious and physical being to an evolutionary state to where everyone is at least neutral, to where they understand people's opinions, they respect everyone's space. There's boundaries that are here or there, but they basically do not become a virus. Their ego is in check, their ego is balanced, even if it's just neutral. And they don't try to gain power over others in a negative way. They don't try to mess anyone else's karmatic transportation, you know. So, especially on experimental planets, um, once these planets or civilization end up reaching at least 10 to 15% conscious evolution. We like to do 15%, especially for very unevolved planets, for conscious evolution from the physical body to the soul. And then we deem them pretty much safe for the second stage. But generally, we like to see between 30 to 25% before we kind of deem them able to get off of their planet to become part of society in space, especially if the planet is isolated like this one.
Okay, now thank you so much. And there's several specific points. I took a lot of notes on this because I think people will find this fascinating. So, what are you talking about, the rules of the Starseed Council for Earth's experiment of the seventh era of man? Is that what you're talking about now?
No, this is for every single star, like every single experimental planet in the oververse. The same rules apply
Okay.
across the board. There is no exceptions. We are not biased, source is not biased. So,
Correct. Now, something also to consider, I highly like the way that you describe Earth and the machine that is here. Experimental, crazy experiment. And so the latter stages of the experiment brought in the pirates. So the worst of the worst of the worst were brought in just to really add that glazing on the surface of this beautiful jewel that is humanity. But these guys have entered nevertheless. And so they are integrated into humanity, whether it's physiologically or in terms of hybridization and soul blending. And so therefore the scrutiny, the level of scrutiny and the tightness of the thresholds are much higher for Earth. So a normal experimental world, let's say 25-30%, here the conditions are much more vigorous. So we would have to go about 40-45% to reach that level or threshold of civilizational evolution or ascension. Individual, of course, soul comes in, learns his lessons, taps back out. But for the collective evolution, this is much more stringent upon humanity. And what do you know? Humanity is ahead of schedule. All these people, we were talking about in some of the earlier conversations, a 350 year transition period until the start of the new golden age. Well, humanity is at least 200 years ahead of schedule as we speak. So the audits of the souls has gone smoothly. Despite being in conditions of amnesia and under extreme pressure, humanity is out performing the most optimistic expectations. So although the level of scrutiny quite naturally and rightfully are high, humanity is doing really, really, really well. Like the centrifuge is running really fast. So the heavy, dense souls that are problematic, they're being identified really rapidly. They're standing out above, let's say, 3 standard deviations in a way that is undeniable. And so the soul audits are hitting the worst of the worst first. And then the vast majority, these are beings that very genuinely have come in, they have acted with integrity, gone through the crucible of fire, and benefited from it. So things are looking really, really good. Don't look at this madness that we see right now, the wars and the crazy politicians and these ass monkeys and clowns in charge. That's okay. These are part of the riffraff bubbling to the surface at the last few iterations. So all in all, things are looking really good.
It's part of the necessary bringing to the surface the things that were hidden. So all these key players are all playing their own little transition roles. It's not about being a good or bad guy, even. It's not about anything else. It's like they're serving a purpose to wake everyone up and for us to reclaim our own power. And the other thing that we mentioned in a recent show is that the ascension, which is the opportunity to progress, which can happen at any time, but it's particularly relevant now, is now an individual process, not just a collective process, too. So that is more fair. And we'll get into it because this, what Amir expresses, I'm around too. What Apollymi has told me privately and will share now publicly, and she has shared it in the past, it has a slightly different orientation from what's called the Starseed Council. Theirs is more, I'll let you tell her, but before we get into that, Apollymi, this will be fun and quickly answered. One of the questions that I get from a lot of people is, how many star seeds are on the planet, and am I a star seed? And the answer is,
So there are very few people on this planet who are just born out of creation souls, consciousness. Um, so like almost like 98% of the planet is star seeds, whether you're from inner Earth or in the catacombs of the middle part and on the surface. We all come from the version of starseed is literally being reincarnated when you had a life elsewhere. It doesn't mean you're an ET soul because ET just means extraterrestrial. Okay. That means you just come from off of the planet. There's interdimensional beings, there's planar beings. It just means that your original consciousness of your soul for your astral body did not reside or was not created on Earth. Now, consciousness can happen anywhere, it can be created anywhere. And so there are a few souls that are baby brand new that have been created by the overconsciousness of Earth. And these souls still don't get any slack or leeway for the Starseed Council. It just, yeah, we're all neutral. Everything's just across the board. But I did wanted to add one thing. I know we're talk about conscious evolution a lot, but the Starseed Council is specifically looking for physical conscious evolution, going from the primal state of whatever species that you have been born into to interact and grow in a harmonious to neutral way, not only with your soul, because if we all come from other places, we all have other experiences, and we want to build that bond and tether so you start getting your soul's knowledge into your body to consciously evolve. This helps mature you. It helps get you out of primal needs. You start basically not acting like a wild animal. And you become more aware of your environment and your actions to others energetically, physically, emotionally. You become civilized, basically. And we are looking for civilization evolution so that when your planet, your physical planet, is able to join the galactic family, meaning ETs come in, they interact with you, and now you can leave the planet to interact on a physical level, the stars, the universe, because this planet is very isolated. That's part of its test, is to be isolated from a lot of ET interactions. But that's how you become from an infant to basically a teenager. And then you get placed once the pickup happens.
the first thing you said, which is fascinating, because this is really important to clarify, is there's different kinds of ascensions. One is where your body and your soul are both ascended, right? And you
Mhm.
were saying that the Starseed Council, you had told me privately, is only judging the physical body.
Correct. We
Okay.
are
It's
not
not their
judging.
job to judge the soul. So
Oh,
please clarify that for people, because a lot of times when we just say ascension or ascension, we're not clear enough for people about what that means.
okay. So the Starseed Council, again, is only here to judge the physical body. We do a little bit of your soul, but it's not karmatic debt. We're not in charge of placing you in heaven or hell or wherever you want to go in your afterlife. We are literally stating, is this person of the physical body consciously evolved enough and physically evolved enough? Because there's science that happens when you start to consciously evolve. And I'm sure Amir can go a little bit more into this than me. For the era of man that is current, you guys have a huge um like oh, I can't even think of the word. You guys have a huge advantage because you can house more types of souls in a single form than that has ever been produced before, especially in this universe. So we are looking for the physical evolution, the psychological evolution of you being able to merge with your soul to start and environmental consciousness to start to evolve from a primitive state into a higher state of being.
That's
Spot on.
very important. And
Spot
please,
on.
and then Amir in a second, please define for people what a lower state of being would be for the body and what the lower state would be consciousness for the soul.
So a lower state for the body would be in fight or flight 24/7. Um, Basically all of your primal instincts, you're triggered all the time. Your instincts are, resources, and you will get them at any means necessary with being rude to other people, kind of blowing people off, being greedy. This is a physical, your chakras are very dense. You're only working from your first to third chakra. You're not in your heart chakra. You're not past anything that's going to evolve you consciously to connect to other people. So being in that constant state causes fear, it causes aggression, it causes resource guarding. You don't work harmoniously with others. A lot of these dark entities are constantly, they might be evolved physically and have all these powers and abilities, but being able to move things with your mind and control time and stuff does not mean you're consciously evolutionary evolved. It just means you have abilities. It has nothing to do with the evolution of your ego. So, and we want a healthy ego. We don't want a toxic ego because that's how you get soul deleted. So
Okay.
a
Spot on.
person with a high evolutionary body, and this does happen occasionally, the body identity itself can be very evolved. It's learning its lessons, it's running on all of its chakras, but its soul is still toxically egoed. It still wants all that resources, all that guarding. And when it makes the connection, there's a huge war that ends up happening most of the time in a reverse effect of the conscious mind. And this is usually what happens, like either way can taint either side. So, for people who are like, oh, I want to be consciously awakened right now, if your soul is toxic, if it's ego toxic, it will drive you into the opposite direction that you want to go because it's a battle of wills at that point. So it's very important to take it kind of slow to get to know yourself because you're kind of getting to know a part of you that you haven't been with in a while, and eventually you guys are going to merge. So it's best to try to get along with each other. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, it's not a good thing when that happens. And aspects of that are, sudden mood shifts where you would start to like get images or do things that you wouldn't normally do when you're trying to connect to your soul. And a lot of people mistake this for being possessed or, oh, dark entities are messing with me. But there's no mystic that's going to be able to get rid of your conscious soul when you start making that connection. So it's something that you're gonna have to go to a higher mystic like Amir who can identify what's going on and start guiding you to therapy things of how to come to be within your own.
Okay, that is so important. Amir, I know
No,
you have a lot to
beautifully said. I can't add any detail. It was just perfectly said. Wonderfully done.
It is. Brava,
Excellent.
brava.
Yeah.
Bellissima.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm just sitting here going, oh my God, oh my God. Yeah, of course. Yeah, beautiful.
So
And now
this,
I just want to add now something. This is not the first time that this is happening. Along the way, during our long, multi-hundred million year process of evolution, there have been versions of humanity where the Starseed Council has deemed sufficiently evolved. Breakaway civilizations, this has happened many, many times. Now, the conditions for these humans who evolve and ascend is to leave the experiment alone. They're not allowed to come back and meddle with their distant cousins. So it is very, very much so based on merit. Versions of the Maya, certain versions of Atlanteans, the Lemurians, these are now humans from Earth that have their own colonies. They're spread across the cosmos. They are fair tradespeople. They are teachers. They are scientists. They are part of the, let's say, universal community. So this is happening yet one more time. This time round, I think the version of human coming in, we're not talking about these bodies. These bodies aren't the complete picture. But looking at the kids coming in and then their children afterwards, 2, maybe 3 iterations further, I think we're hitting that critical point one more time. Again, there's cause for celebration.
I'm so pleased with the show and how you both are. Now, I'm going to use the exact quotes that Apollymi shared with me in a private show. This doesn't mean it can't change at any point in time. And remember that your ascension is individual. But now you're more clear about what they're looking for, what you need for your physical growing up and your consciousness growing up. The other really important thing is you said, is that the only part that's being judged is third dimension Earth. Okay.
Correct. There are several dimensions to this planet, and the Starseed Council only does experimental evaluations for certain dimensions. So, Amir, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the 7th dimension of this planet isn't even considered experimental Earth anymore.
It's where we started off really. Earth coming in at dimension 7, and then slowly she went down, and she's at the bottom of the barrel right now to rise again beyond 7. So that would be early stages before the experiment of humanity. I think you're right. So a 7th dimensional reality related to Earth. It's kind of like a refuge, or let's say a safe haven for very, very evolved beings who come in, they dip their toe in the pond and dip out again. It wouldn't be part of the, let's say, guaranteed unnatural evolution experiments that is these bodies, or part of the soul evolution either. So it's kind of somewhere on it's a cul-de-sac out of the main road. So I think you're correct. I do agree with that.
Okay, so that's really important. Now, let me continue the quote upon me, if I may. The 3.5th dimension of this planet is where we are residing right now. The 3.5th dimension, Gaia, is the only dimension of Gaia that will be evaluated now, not her higher ones. The 4th fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensions of this planet do not go through the same judgment or evaluation. Each dimension, like you said, is literally a different reality. So if you go up a dimension to fourth dimension, Earth does not look the same. And people will be fascinated by this. They'll be fascinated by this. The residents of that dimension of Earth are not the same. There are many more ETs walking around openly there, and there is much more freedom, for example, is what Apollymi shared with me. So, Apollymi, you're saying that 90% of the people on Earth right now, you had told me from your last evaluation, which was second, and then there's 1,000 more cycles of Earth years before the final evaluation. You're saying from the Starseed Council, you're saying that 90% of the people on Earth right now are still at 3.5th reality, physical dimension, and consciousness both, which is not the best. And that Earth is at least fourth dimension physically, but most of the consciousness dimension of humanity is still at 3.5. Now, when we last talked, you said currently at your last scan, because you can dip in and make this evaluation in 5 minutes, there's only about 7% of humanity who are between fourth to seventh dimension consciously.
Right. We're talking the physical body.
Okay.
Okay, I want to make that very clear. We're not talking about soul evolution of just the soul. We're talking physical body to conscious evolution.
Okay.
I think people are misunderstanding me when they're like, well, I'm very, enlightened and all this stuff. No, we're talking the physical body. There's scientific things that happen to your physical body, like de-aging and, being able to move your molecular structure to the point where you become more healthy, all this other stuff. People mostly try to do just the spiritual stuff, and that's great. It's important for you to work on. But in order for Earth to pass, you also need to work on your physical conscious evolution. And that's what the Starseed Council is trying to work on. So, because nobody likes a wipe, trust me. It's the worst part of my job.
So, what, folks, I am promising, it's on the list that Amir and I and whoever, Apollymi, if you're still on Earth, are available, will do a show, which is really important on body and soul integration. Okay, this is
Okay.
something that we're going to do as a special thing having to do with this so that you're very clear on what's necessary. And I'm a body whisperer, so one of my specialties is how to communicate with the body. But so we're going to share all of that so that you can, I'm making up this word, and intelligent size your body as well, turn on your regeneration and do all kinds of things. I think that will be a fascinating show. Would that be okay with you guys?
Oh, yeah. That sounds amazing.
Okay. Okay. So folks, we'll clarify all that. So, and you clarified what that means. So this is another, like, a little bit fire under your butts gently, that 2026 is going to be a year of a lot of transformation, a lot of changes. Just surf through it and focus on the neutrality, holding yourself in health. And yes, go ahead, Apollymi.
Okay. I also want to explain that the way the physical body evolves in different stages, like 5, 6, 7, we like to see people at tier 7 for getting off planet. This doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get abducted and they're going to whisk you away to the heavens. Unfortunately, there's a lot of paperwork that still has to happen, and some people might, end up dying of natural causes or whatever before that happens. Again, we don't really have anything to do with the soul per se, and I want to explain the per se because when you do conscious evolution, there is a guiding system that when you do get off planet, it doesn't mean you have free reign of the universe, all right? The tier system that they use, like a person with fourth dimension consciousness by the time we pick people up will only be allowed on 4-tier and under planets. This means that to go live there, okay? To go live and explore these planets and interact, because they're going to be at your conscious evolution level. If you were to be put on a 7th-tier planet, your body would pretty much feel either amazing or try to vibrate you apart. There's a lot of physics and conscious evolution involved. So it could just be too much for a lot of people. So if you want a more transitional place to live, when you get off world, or for yourself, and whatever you evolve is going to be spread down to your kids. They're going to have a better chance of hitting conscious evolution faster genetically and through all of the experience and evolution that you have done as well. And this is how we get conscious evolution on a planetary scale, which we call dysphoria. Because when you start passing those genetics down of evolution, conscious evolution even, it helps evolve the species. And unfortunately, you guys have had a really bad hand in that, because you've had a lot of entities mingle and de-evolve you. So yeah.
And AI.
And AI.
Yeah.
So good job, everybody, for who's holding it in there.
Listen, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I say
or
to
insane.
these wonderful,
One of the two.
Or insane or evil, hey, come at us, Starseed Council. We are the mighty human. Hear us roar. And I think that once we get out of this toughness, we're going to experience accelerated growth, something that would maybe take any other civilization 100,000 years, we're going to do in 5. So all this harshness that we have been exposed to has made us fast evolvers, not revolvers. We evolve pretty quickly. And so, again, this is amazing news. It's the first time I'm coming across it, and it makes me super happy. Humanity is at a good place. We've done well under difficult circumstances, and hoorah.
What I feel is, as we ascend, do higher dimensions and aspects of ourselves also ascend, because we are all connected? Because what has been said is that the universe seems to be waiting for Earth, and that Earth's delay has kept other parts of the universe from ascending as well. Amir, is there any truth in that?
So evolution in Earth realm does result in the evolution of the oversoul, or the infinite aspect of the soul. When you're down here in the trenches, not knowing who you are, not having your abilities at your disposal, and you still demonstrate integrity, the ability to heal, to transcend, to forgive, and to evolve, that's a badge of honor for the entire soul. And so that's the attraction of Earth. Certain types of lesson and challenge are available here that were not presented almost anywhere else. So most certainly, the liberation of humanity from the old system of the matrix, the establishment of more, let's say, gentle and normal situations and environments, this will result in the evolution of humanity as a species. We're talking about the mighty human vessel that will be used as a seed of life, not just in this universe, in 300 others also. As far as I know, 300 prime creators are down here test driving these wonderful bodies. Of course, our distant and close cousins, which are the Starseed Council, are also looking at this with great amusement, because these wonderful bodies, I know they don't want me to say this, but parts, hybridization sometimes doesn't work. Stick a little human in the test tube and suddenly the whole thing is viable. So they're looking at these wonderful bodies with great, great anticipation that something really incredible is coming into the gene pool. It will enhance life as is. Then there's the matter for the soul. So many of let's say, cousins. In the grand scheme, we are more similar than we are dissimilar. They have come in to test their mettle in the matrix, so they are also evolving. Many of them graduating to multi-universal consciousness. Many of them, for the first time, getting, in the words of my esteemed friend, the C card. That's the last missing ingredient that they get, and they finally are given the opportunity to create based on their wisdom. So, yes, I do get excited and go into lots of detail, but the short answer is yes.
Yes.
Let me iterate on that a little bit also. So everything that the body, okay, let me back up a little bit. This body has its own consciousness that is separated from the astral body. And when this body dies, or even when it makes the soul link to the astral body, there's like certain quirks and personalities and wisdom and just everything that this consciousness on earth has experienced gets transferred to the astral body. So you're evolving your soul by just being here and experiencing things. And this is also why, and I might be going on a tangent, that a lot of religions are like, don't waste your time on meaningless things. To be here is a gift. To be able to learn and explore, get all the history, get all the hobbies that you want, go adventuring, be with people, because Earth is very unique in many things. Even though I don't like this planet a whole lot, like I'm gonna miss the food. You can't find a lot of stuff out there in
That's what
outer
got me
space
here.
that has
Lasagna.
such cuisine. Like
Lasagna. Oh my
Earth is
God.
very creative in its food or like creation. So take that knowledge with you, please.
Yep.
But it does evolve the soul in many ways. All the hardships you've been figuring out down here, what works, what doesn't work, what helps you grow as a person, what hurts you as a person. As for and Marilee, I don't remember what episode it was, but we talked about how the consciousness here, with all of our trauma bonding and all the traumas that we've been through, and figuring out how to grow and learn from that in a healthy manner, also helps the overconsciousness of all that there is, because we're giving it a roadmap on how to deal with that situation versus it not having any knowledge. And if it ever comes across it, it's like, what did I do? So evolving yourself also benefits everybody else as well.
Thank you. That such great additions and clarity on that. Now, and once again, our previous educational class, like the shows titled, it was episode 28, titled The 7 Tiers of Ascension Consciousness. You might want to go back to with Apollymi and me to encourage greater awareness consciously by understanding and having these essential questions answered to know thyself, because everything is consciousness. So, Amir, if I may have the privilege, in one of our last summations you did of the recent show, I want to remind people that you stated the 2 consciousness concepts one needs to accept and integrate to get to higher dimensions, including the 7th dimension. And that is no more victim mentality. And the second one you said is to understand that everything is and has a consciousness, so treat it with respect. And I thought, whoa, folks, this is the keys, right? So
Beautifully said by yourself and by Apollymi. This is wisdom that's been available to us eternally. It's that constant stream of wisdom that exists independent of humanity being there or not being there. And so it's beautiful to see that this is coming up over and over, shedding victimhood and understanding that all things are consciousness. These are those stages that our distant and close cousins in the Starseed Council are looking at. because if the heart is not working, you do not understand the language of the soul. And so again, it is understanding the language of consciousness, telepathy, opening the doors for understanding energetic libraries, the Akashic records, different energetic libraries, communication, commerce, beauty, poetry, trade. All this, you need to have a healed heart. So yes, many of us are getting there.
Mm. Yes, yes, yes. And another great comment um, that was asked. This was a while back, but it bears repeating because Amir's brilliant response to this. For anyone that is in fear and anyone that's still working on forgiving those pirates and everything else that came in, I believe it might also have been Arbet Moscow. Uh, he said, Dr. Amir, is it possible to bring those responsible for the chaos of humanity in facing divine justice? If known, how, and to higher powers with their help intercede and have them removed from the matrix? And your response, and I'm just saying this, it's a repeat about 3 times, but for people, absolutely yes, find injustice in your life and call for a divine audit, which you do for yourself, and trust that source will take care of it. And you also rest assured that it is done. This is the correct way to heal and cleanse yourself and that which affects you deleteriously.
We talk about these beings coming in initially as pirates, but many of them have been affected by the sublime beauty of humanity. Imagine you torture a being to death 1,000 times and they still come out and they have joy and the heart is alive. This is going to shake you and break you. And so many of them, many of them have understood that a forceful, aggressive way is not always the correct way. And so they have come into the light, capitulated to divine order, and been granted one more time a vibrant heart. So this is not some hippie doo-doo we're talking about. It's important energetically, stages of consciousness, understanding that all things are conscious. And so that way of looking at other sentient beings as just a resource to be used without any consideration, that has been wiped away. Many of these have now ascended. This is beautiful. So yes, our wonderful audience member who asked this question, I love you, man. Thank you.
Okay, so one last couple questions before we close. And that is about, some people are really curious about the matrix and the veil. In previous shows, Apollymi did an excellent description of both. So we're going to do a quick review of current updates of what's going on around that. And because Amir in a previous show said the matrix is slowly coming down. And so, Amir, do you want to talk about that a little bit? What people can expect, what they would expect if it went too fast, why it doesn't work if you go too fast in other timelines, and then Apollymi. Okay, Amir, so go ahead.
So one thing is the presence of the matrix, which is in the form of, let's say, structures or scaffolding upon the mind and upon the consciousness. So that is the present infrastructure or the underlying operating system. Upon that, we may have other matrices of reality created by different beings or maybe different groups. Hey, join a cult and you're in a different matrix. You're down the rabbit hole. But one other aspect is our susceptibility to the matrix. And so this is also slowly coming down as the machine itself is also shutting off. So the reason for this gentleness and sort of this length in time, quote unquote, is that certain beings have passed their natural level of adaptability. The bodies are traumatized and battered. You need a fresh body. How can you undo childhood trauma of the most severe and destructive kind in your 80s? You see, there's a certain level where the body just can't do it anymore. So next incarnation, first of all, this sequence of sensitizing events, will not occur or will be greatly reduced, and then they will be exposed to a softer, let's say, holographic reality, and so therefore they can do it maybe not this lifetime, but next one, or maybe the one after.
Thank you so much for that, Apollymi. Do you have anything to add about that? Because you had mentioned that in other Earth experiments, it's rare for you to know about a matrix versus a veil. Do you want to explain that too?
So I think we should do what a matrix and a veil is. There's many different types of matrices. The normal matrix that the Star Seed Council puts around a experimental planet records basically the evolution of mankind, keeps in tabs on everything. The matrix that the Earth Creator Council had put in is alternating this dimension's reality. So people are not seeing ETs, they're not interacting with them. You know, everyone looks the same even if ETs do have permission, because some come down here for like vacation or visiting star family, whatever, because we do have inner Earth and the catacombs. So they will look ET, or should I say, sorry, they basically just put on a holographic suit or have the matrix chip. And so they can walk around and look completely human. They might be more pretty, more magnetic, you know, people who have tapped into their higher selves, like can already been like, that person's not human. You know, you can smell it a mile away with energy. The matrix alters the reality. So if a super soldier goes kind of crazy, uses their powers, or any hybrid like myself uses our abilities in public, it will fix a normal person's brain who is not past a certain tier level of conscious evolution, because it can make people go insane, act very animalistic, get very defensive. Um, you know, so it corrects their reality. It's like, oh, that just happened, but in their brain it rewrites to either not happening and their conscious ignores it, or something logical to them happening. Even though if you catch it on camera, like it's still there as evidence. So that's the matrix. The veil was put in after the death of, or around the death of Jesus, um, and started to well, it was actually before, started to dumb down the conscious evolution of this planet. We went from, I believe it was sixth tier by the time that happened, and it literally is vibrating us at a third dimension consciousness for here. This includes prana flow or chi energy flow. If you go off planet, there's so much more energy out there. You heal faster. You have more abilities that are to your physical body naturally. You know, you hear all these wonderful things about people going out there and having these like fascinating experiences, and then they come down here and feel like they've just like went to a kegger for a week straight and just can't move, can't function, can't think. And that's because of the lack of prana, of natural source energy, where it's just a trickle down here. And that's also because they didn't want certain species to have the abilities to use their powers openly. The only entities that do not have, that are not affected by the veil, are those that are not part of the top side Earth experiment of Earth for third dimension.
Meaning inner Earth and the other beings.
Yeah, inner Earth and those guys, they don't have the experiment. They're not part of it. So they still have all of their abilities and everything.
Great, great, great clarification, summation. You guys are awesome, exhibiting incredible cooperation and tag teaming and adding, and it just gives us a full picture and greater clarity. And I couldn't be more thankful for you and humanity that I have the privilege to have you both.
Oh, don't start crying. You're gonna make me cry.
So,
You're going to
Now,
make me cry too now. Don't do that.
Apollymi is not available at any time, any place. She's literally off world most of the time. So if you have any questions, because we are caught up with subscribers' questions, contact me merely at cosmicbrilliance.com and we'll address those in future shows. And in the meantime, all of you now are very familiar with Dr. Amir, his many abilities. He has many shows. And Amir, share your contact and what you do briefly for people.
Wizard of Wivenhoe.co.uk. I do an energy car wash. A lot of the stuff that blocks the path of prana or chi, as we just spoke, that stands in the way of many of your soul technologies coming online, I remove. I like pressing the button that goes boom, so I use rattles and shakers and drums and sistrums, crystals, and so that's my honor to serve the dormant masters